Hello there. I just wanted to show you how you can map your processes and organize them at a company-wide scale. So I wanted to show you what map processes look like and then some other variations of it. And the one process or tool that I've used the most that has helped me throughout my career to develop different policies, procedures, training, and other things. So at first I'm going to show you here the most basic components of a process. And that will be, you can use a terminator in which you're able to, this will be the beginning or the end of a process. Next, you would use just like a box where you will write down the activity that you're performing, and then the other most common element is a decision diamond. From here you can go to either yes, no decision, so that you're able to continue to connect these processes with arrows. And the arrows just signify that there's a transfer or a handoff to the next activity, or it could be a person or so this is the most simplistic way. I'm using Lucidcharts for this particular example. The other one you can use, and I've used that also to kind of help teams map their processes, would be just to use the Post-its, where you would write down the activity and then you would paste it on the wall and then continue pasting as you go along, defining what those steps are. The other thing you can do is just kind of flip it on the side and create the decision diamond. So you just kind of paste it on that side. So if it splits, you can continue doing so with this simple tool. Both of them are really good. They've helped a lot. I've used it in numerous times to when I'm mapping processes and helping clients. From this point, you can actually, the next level of complexity is you can start using what they're called swim lanes. And it can either be vertical or horizontal. And the point of these swim lanes is to identify either, let's call it a department or a position that is doing these activities, and you're able to define for them what they're responsible for. So in this case, we would move things like this, and then we're going to connect oops. So there, this will show you how to kind of organize them with swim lanes, and you're able to see what either department or entity or position gets to do those activities. This is a very complicated process that we've mapped. It's the process for change orders, and we were able to identify all the different things that kind of kicked it off, or the different steps that are associated with it, And then you'll see also the different positions on top of the actual process of the people or the entities in charge of completing that particular task. You can see here there's a decision diamond, and then in this case would be there's a meeting here with the owner. Then we define if it's under the GC scope of work. If it is, then we need to figure out which subcontractors are affected. Is it in their subcontractor scope, so on and so forth. And then you can start moving down and where you can see where we price the change. We're able to create potential change orders to start tracking the cost associated with that, all the way down to our RFQ, and then being able to give the owner contractor change request. If the change request is approved, then we're able to transfer it over as a change order to the owner, and then issue subcontract change orders if they're applicable, or if it was not approved, then go into the claim process. Again, this is a complicated one that we did, and I'm also going to show you the one for the procurement that we did. And for this one, we use swim lanes because it makes the most sense to show it in that fashion. That way we can see what each one of the entities was doing. In this case, project executive, estimators, purchasing agents, estimating manager, and so on and so forth. So you can see how each entity has a set of activities associated with them, and they are responsible for that as the process moves along. This is a job breakdown sheet. This is what I've used the most, and it's been the most successful for me to help operations and construction companies to define their processes, only because it's a very simple tool. It's just a document, a Word document, in which either I enter the information and ask them, what's the next step, and then enter the information, or I give the tool to them and just explain how it works, and then have them fill out. So essentially what it is you start defining the steps, the what to do, and then how to do it, and then how you start getting into key points where you want them to specify a way to make it that particular step safer or better quality, or a technique, some sort of a special way of doing something, or the proper use of a tool. So you want to be specific on those key points, and then lastly provide a reason of why it is done this way. Why is that step important to follow? And that has to do with adult learning. Adults learn better when they understand the why, the bigger picture. So this document helps you put together those steps for any process. I've actually done hundreds and hundreds of processes this way that has been very helpful to create other documents from this point, including. So this is a particular job breakdown sheet for submittals. So again, we kind of broke down the different steps, the key points for each one of those steps, and then explain the why behind that particular step. So as you can see, we continue to define those things. And then from this point, it's really easy to convert into a procedure. So what you do is you literally just cut and paste what you're putting into the job breakdowns, and you already have this step defined of what the key points and the why. So it's really easy to convert to this type of format, and then you can have this where it's a more structured policy and procedure that you normally see in companies, or you can go ahead and do something different that's a little bit more colorful and more simplistic to be able to help with training employees or showing them how to do something. So in this case, you will see the process, and then it will be the step, and then the key points, and then you can see here the why will be in italics, and this just gets repeated throughout the document, where again you're just cutting and pasting from that particular job breakdown to create your procedures. And like I said, it's very easy way to put together procedures really fast for a company, and you can get the subject matter experts on for that particular process in the room, and you can even start documenting best practices by having a group of people, like some subject matter experts, kind of define what a process, the best way to go about a process. So very simplistic. I said I've done hundreds of procedures based on this tool. I'm showing you again the change order process because I wanted to show you also how you can go from the graphical representation of a process into the procedure itself. So this procedure was written using that process. So it actually breaks down all the different things, and you can see here the diamond where there was a decision. So if this, then that. Or go to this step. So you're able to kind of define all the different steps that are necessary to complete that process. Even if it's really complicated, something like this, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of manage, as long as you keep track of what steps are where. And then lastly, I've used this to develop training. So again, it's just a job breakdown, and we're putting more information behind it. You can do pictures or videos of something being done in your presentations. This one's more wordy, but essentially it's the same, taking the information from the job breakdown to help with training new employees or existing employees on the way you're doing something. So I guess the question is, where do I start, right? What's the best way to start an effort like this? And I would suggest that you think about your key processes. What are the things that are the most important for your company? Where does value get generated? And what are the things that you need to have in place or defined so that your employees are doing what they're supposed to be doing? So this is a value stream for the construction process that I put together many years ago. And it's been really helpful to explain to, especially like brand new engineers or interns or employees that are not in operations, be in a support group, like, I don't know, in the mail room or in accounting or in HR, to help them understand what projects do on a daily basis and what are the things that are important, and sometimes having them understand how they interconnect with those processes. So this is, again, the value stream that I put together. In this case, this is the pre-construction estimating phase or marketing, where we're trying to look at a lead. We give them a bid or a proposal, and then we get a contract awarded. From that point, we start doing buyout. It's red because it could be costly if we don't do it right, or it can, like I said, impact our bottom line in some sort of a way. So buyout being one of the most important parts that you can do in the value stream. Submittal processing, the fabrication of the materials of products, receiving them, storing them on site, installing them, and then having them be inspected. So again, it's just a very clear connection of all these processes, and there are many processes underneath one of this. Well, and receiving is just one, but you can go deeper than this at much deeper levels. So, but you can see how important it is, how the daily reporting is to document that these things are being done so that you can supplement or be able to explain on there when you're submitting a payment application. So in the case as you start getting subcontractor payment applications or invoices from vendors, or including your own internal processes related to costs, then everything gets entered into the payment application. You receive the payment, you pay your subs and vendors, and then you can start doing your project cost reporting and then your revenue reporting. So again, this is a very general way to explain to different employees or brand new engineers to how we build things and generate value for owners. The next thing is you're going to realize really quickly that there's just hundreds of processes that need to be mapped, and then you have to have some sort of a way to organize all of these things and be able to understand their correlation. So this is a project process classification framework that I put together. This is a combination from the PMI and from the APQC, but I realized that the PMI was missing various parts. So I put this together that in my head makes the most sense to be able to organize all of the process that a construction company does. So we're going to start with the second one here, business development and pre-construction management. These are processes under this category that are related to that particular category. So having project leads, the estimating piece, the creating a proposal, and then getting a contract awarded. So under scope management, you got the prime contract, the drawings and specifications, RFIs, and other things. Under information and communication management, you got document control, photographs and videos, project meetings, etc. And then under environmental health and safety management, you have the hazard analysis, the job-specific safety plans, and other things. And then under quality management, you have the project-specific quality management plan, permits and inspections, you have quality audits. And under schedule management, these are all the different schedule types that or processes that are kind of connected to that particular category. And then field management, things like surveying, material management, logistics, site security. Under tools, equipment, and facilities is how are we going to, like crane management, temporary facility acquisition and management, and some tool management. Under procurement, management, and contract administration, this is about issuing subcontracts and purchase orders or rental orders, so that you're able to manage those under this particular category. And then you have cost management, which has to do with your budget, commitments, forecasting, financial management, which has to do with payment applications, retention, cash flow, risk management, which deals with insurance, bonds, lien waivers, claim management, which has to do with claims, disputes, and liens. And then lastly, the human capital management, which is you do your project staffing, your training, employee training, and then conflict management and other things. So again, these are just broad categories to kind of put those processes underneath and give them some sort of organization. I do have two other categories here that I have to explain and go deeper into. The one is performance management. The idea is that you need to verify that these processes are helpful, meaning is the policy and procedure or the training that you have actually achieving the results that it's supposed to have? Are things going wrong, or this project being late, or costs are overrun? Something's wrong, right? So you need to figure out the performance management of all these things. So in here, this category, you should have processes that kind of help you do reviews of how those things went, and if they went bad, why did they go bad, and then start to define the counteraction to help alleviate with that issue. So, which brings us to the first category. So once you identified the issue and the countermeasure for it, then you need to test it out. So this is how you would do. So you would you would test it out at a project level and then verify that it is working. And then once it is working and you've proven that, then you're able to modify your existing documentation, your existing policy and procedure, existing training or process or whatever, or your database, the way you use the system, and then release that to the teams and then retrain them in that new way of doing things. That way you're always doing continuous improvement throughout. So as you can see, this creates this PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, which comes with quality. So the next step is who's in charge of making sure that all these things get done. So this is where I think the PMO is the best option to do so. So essentially, the responsibility of the PMO is to help define those things that need to be put in place for your project management methodology, the way you do things. So as you put that together and you standardize it and then you implement it across your teams, then like I said, you have to first define what it is and how it's supposed to be done. And this is based on your MAP processes. And then you go into enforcing and monitoring. So this group, which I always think it should be composed of the project executives or the vice presidents of operations, anybody who oversees multiple projects. And the reason for that is they're able to get more feedback from different teams and then be able to identify those issues. Plus, then you start elevating their responsibilities to a lot more strategic and tactical rather than operational. Usually when you promote somebody to project executive or a vice president, they still like to touch things and get to the nitty gritty. So at that level, they should be being more strategic and more overseeing how the processes or the system works, and if it works properly or not, and what needs to change to make that system work properly. And what I mean by systems is not the software, but everything else, the processes, the procedures, the training, the software training itself, and so on and so forth. A system of things that kind of works together to make your services happen. So again, this group, the PMO, is in charge of overseeing the enforcement and monitoring of that project management methodology. So anywhere from the marketing and selling services. Now, why that particular part? Well, because you need to have current data to be able to give the best proposals to your clients. So they need to be connected to, as projects get completed, that information needs to be updated to your estimating software so that you have better numbers to produce better proposals. And then also as far as delivering the services, are they following the way we do things here with our project management methodology? Do they need training, or what's happening, or is it working or not working? So that's where evaluation comes in. So you start figuring out what worked, what didn't, and then you start talking to your customers that give us feedback on what you like or didn't like, or what we could improve on things. And then based on that feedback from either the customer or the project teams, then you start implementing improvements. And then again, redefine your services. Produce new documentation, new processes, new procedures, new training, so that you're able to improve your services continually. And again, this all has to do with the infamous PDCA circle, so that is continuous improvement across your corporation. I wanted to clarify something, and that is the process categories almost are one-to-one to a department. Most construction companies have an HR department, an accounting department, operations, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to clarify that these process categories are just containers for all of the different processes that are part of the company. So, but processes, because processes kind of cut through different departments. You can see here where, let's say, the cost management, it affects the PMO, operations, and then the finance department or accounting. So you can see here where different things can be affected to different departments. Any of the stakeholders that touch that process are affected by it. So again, these process categories are to help contain those, but again, the processes can continue to cut through all of them. It just happens that some of them do correlate one-to-one with departments, but that shouldn't be the case. So anyway, that's all I wanted to show you today. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if it is in the comments below, or send me a direct message if you're interested of talking more about this. Thanks for watching.